In this video, I'm going to show you 3 examples of how to find the domain of rational expressions. So I have these 3 rational expressions, and we're just going to go through how do you find the domain. So let's start with the first one. Okay, so when you're trying to find the domain of a rational expression, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out where does the denominator equal 0. So in this case, you can probably tell just by looking at it, but if you're ever not sure, you can always just set the denominator equal to 0. And then you can go ahead and solve for x. So at x equals 3, the denominator will equal 0. So when we're talking about the domain, this is what we don't want the domain. We don't want this in the domain, basically. So this is the one value that needs to be excluded. So then the format for this is usually you just want to use interval notation. So you can, if you struggle with interval notation, you can think about this in terms of a number line. So the one value I want to exclude is 3. Basically everything else on the number line I want to include except for 3. So I need to represent an interval notation, this number line having a hole at 3. So the thing to remember with this is that this direction is the negative infinity direction and this direction is the positive infinity direction. So when we're talking about interval notation, we're always kind of reading it like a book from left to right. So in this case, this number line starts here with the arrow part is shaded in. So this indicates then that my interval starts at negative infinity and it goes all the way until I have this hole at 3. Now, 3 is not included, and when you want to indicate that you're not including a number, you always use a round bracket. And then I'll use a round bracket again. So this basically just shows that we're jumping over 3. And then I'm continuing on this way to positive infinity. And so there's your interval notation to represent that this is the domain of the function. So this is usually what you're trying to do. So if I now use a slightly more complicated rational expression, so I've got x squared minus 9. So if I want to know where x squared minus 9 equals 0, what I need to do is I need to factor this. So this will be x minus 3, x plus 3. And so then there are 2 areas that we have to exclude, or 2 points that we have to exclude, where x equals 3 and where x equals negative 3. So I found that by setting each factor equal to 0. So once again, we can use a number line to help us figure out what the interval notation should look like. So in this case, negative 3 comes before 3, and these are where I need my holes. So this number line is a really nice visual representation to help you figure out how to do your interval notation. And again, remember, this is the negative infinity direction, this is the positive infinity direction. Okay, so now if I go from left to right, I'm starting at negative infinity. I go all the way to negative 3, and I need to make this jump at negative 3. So from negative 3, I'm going to continue on, up here to 3, and then once again I'm going to jump. And then at 3, I'm going to jump over 3, and then I'm going to continue on down the line. And ideally I would have put this all in one line, but I'm running out of space. Okay, so if you're playing along at home here, so remember, math is not a spectator sport. So if you're trying to understand this, I strongly recommend that you pause the video and that you try this one totally on your own, just to make sure that you're solid on this. You can watch somebody do examples all day long, but the best way to learn is for you to actually do it. So I suggest pausing, hit play when you think you've got it. So in this case, my denominator is going to factor as x plus 6 and x plus 1. So if I set that equal to 0, that means that the 2 values I need to exclude are x equals negative 6 and x equals negative 1. So if I use my number line, so now here's where negative 6 comes in and here's where negative 1 comes in. So this is where I want my 2 holes. Okay, so in this case now, if I want to set up my interval notation, I'm starting at negative infinity and then I'm going to negative 6. And I'm going to make that jump over negative 6. From negative 6, I'm going to continue on to negative 1, jump over negative 1, and then continue on my way. Okay, and so that's it. If you found this helpful, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Thanks for watching.